The girlfriend doesn't know it, but I'm on a seniors dating site where it pays to set your age forward, as opposed to those dating sites in your 30s and 40s and 50s where you set
Oh,
your age backward. You
oh,
misrepresent yourself that way. So when people say, "Oh, I love your beard," I say, "Yeah, I'm going to have it all, lopped off on my 82nd birthday coming up in April."
so you're a
Yeah.
young chicken. You're a young chicken on that side, huh?
We welcome those of you who've been watching the Darius Rucker Intercollegiate Women's Golf Tournament on the Golf Channel. And, God love Darius Rucker. The Counting Crows are no longer a thing, but he's a good golfer, apparently, plays Pebble Beach each year, has a very low handicap. But I don't understand why that tournament isn't called the Leo DiCaprio Intercollegiate Women's Golf Tournament, since that is his preferred age for his companions. Little Leo DiCaprio joke to get things started.
Always good.
So, what did you think of my suggestion about the book American Kingpin?
I looked it up right away. I thought it looked fascinating. I am fascinated by the dark web. I'm scared to dabble in it. I don't even know how you dabble in it, but it was just like, wow, it's amazing. So yeah, it's on my list of purchases in the future. So
It
we'll
was
see if I can.
recommended a couple of mornings ago on my favorite sports handicapping show called Follow the Money, and the guy's mentioning it in just the most minimal terms. And I was so fascinated by it, I, got on the horn to my library and ordered it. What it reminds me of is a guy, I mean, it can't be the same guy, Ulbricht, because he was born in 84. And I met a guy on the tennis tour who would go around to groups of wealthy people like the ones I was traveling with, hand out his business cards, and I could swear that the name of the business was something like anything you want.
Oh,
And I said, "How do you mean that?" And he says, "Well, do you want a gun? Do you want a drug? Do you want a
wow.
woman? Do you want more than one woman? Do you want a painting, a tree, a nice suit of clothes? Just ask me. I'll get it for you." And it's the same idea for a business that this guy Ulbricht came up with for the Silk Road. And now he's in jail for life. So I'm guessing that maybe he stole some things to sell to people. That's just my hunch.
Perhaps he was a ball boy back in the day and he was eavesdropping on your conversations.
Oh no, he was of age. He was
Oh,
he was Vegas sleazy.
okay.
But to think that idea was inherited or taken in some way by a future generation, and then was so successful, the guy wound up worth tens of millions of dollars by the time he was convicted. American Kingpin is the name of the book, and hopefully the library will have it for me very soon. So I hope you enjoy it while you're on vacation in the. No, I won't say it.
In the Caribbean.
That's it. In the Caribbean. That's it.
Just Hawaii. Let's just tell them where I'm not going to be.
They're playing a golf tournament in Puerto Rico, as a matter of fact, and also about golf. The Cologuard Seniors event, the Cologuard Classic, starts tomorrow, and I can't wait to see who wins the little box of excrement with the legs that walks alongside you and scolds you for not having had a colonoscopy.
Did you see that Saturday Night Live did a bit on that last week where they were talking
I
about
did.
the
That was fantastic.
yeah,
What do you think, just in concept, the concept of sending your leavings through the mail?
I
I
feel
just
like
think that's
on so many levels. You know, the box goes to the postman has to carry that thing around. Oh,
it's a biohazard, for God's sake.
I mean, just put that on another list of things that the postman carries around that he has no idea whether it's drugs, pornographic material, and now
Right.
shit.
Each of the I'll say the last six doctors I had, regardless of the thing that was ailing me, would encourage me to get a colonoscopy.
Mhm.
And every one of them, I say, if there were a problem in my family, there wasn't a problem in my mother's family, and she loved them so much she would get one every week. But that's my mother.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't know your
so
mom was kink. I didn't know she was kinky.
I know a person who was beset by constipation and thought that a colonoscopy would turn things around, so to speak, and turn them out. but it never the colonoscopy did no good whatsoever. And I think they're on the verge of changing their minds about it. Medical science, modern science, the same way they changed their minds about the Pap smear and the digital prostate exam.
Have you known anybody who's gotten enemas?
No, but it figures in one of our commercial narratives today, later in the show. I'll give you a hint on that.
Oh, a tease. I like that.
I had a dermatologist, swear to God, I can't make this up. Dr. Douglas Hamilton, specialized in cosmetic surgery, but just all around great dermatologist. He may be retired by now. And he said to me, "Have you had a colonoscopy?" And I'm thinking, well, that's a weird thing to ask a dermatology patient. He says, "If you haven't had a colonoscopy, you might as well be running around in traffic. LA traffic. You
Harsh.
might as well be playing in traffic if you haven't had a colonoscopy." And I'm sorry, unless they find a way to mix vodka and barium, I am not going through the rigors of that 2 or 3 day preparation process.
I've thought about it a lot in the last couple of years. I turned 50 last year, as you know, and it's been on my mind. And everybody says, like you're saying, you got to do it if you don't want to risk your life. And I'm like, I'm just not excited about it. And I talked to my doctor, and he's like, all in if I want to. That's a bad term, all in. But if but I can't pull the trigger on that one. So I'm like you
Several
on
of
this
these
one.
doctors had them sent to my home, and I put them in a special Cologuard part of the closet. They just stacked up until people called and said, "Where's your, the little box with the excrement in it? Where is that? Aren't you going to mail that to us?" "No, I'm not going to mail you my poop."
Well, what wasn't Howard Hughes, right? He was the one who collected his urine in jars, right? Wasn't that?
I don't remember that, but that sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, and wrote, and I think he was ahead of his time, right? I mean, if he could have collected his poo, he probably would have done that as well. I don't
Well,
know.
as far as paranoia goes, just generally, yeah, Howard Hunt was a pioneer. He was a paranoia pioneer.
Alli-
I'm
Alliteration. I
trying to
love
think
it.
of the name of the actor who did such a great job as Howard Hughes.
Leo.
No, before him. I can see him now, but I can't think of his name. Anyway, he would always have these napkins in his hand, and he had an assistant named Noah, and he would go, "Noah, the flies, the flies." And he'd be trying to snatch the flies, these imaginary flies out of the air with this napkin, with these facial tissues. And
Wow.
his Howard Hughes's AC outlets and light switches in the rooms of his home in Palm Springs were always near the floor for some reason. He would be down on his hands and knees, turning lights on and off from that crouched position. He was a nutball, Howard Hughes.
Yeah, I just know of the Aviator. I'm just curious what one you're talking about. I'd love to find out about it. Did
he
Jason
was the
Robards play
American
him?
kingpin, Howard Hughes, huh?
Jason Robards, did he play him at one point? Hmm.
Uh,
Googled
oh
it.
man, I can't think of the guy. I'll think of him for next time. Speaking of great actors, we need to get today's Snakes on a Plane audition out of the way. Our star this afternoon, or whenever you're watching this, is Mr. John Merrick, the Elephant Man, and it would go something like this. "I am not an animal. I'm a human being, and I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane." Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be here all week.
The Oscar committee is going to be calling.
I'm working on an even more obscure Snakes on the Plane audition, which maybe next time I will unveil, and that is Alec Murdoch, whose trial is now with the jury in
Oh yeah.
Walterboro, South Carolina.
Mhm.
I'm working on an audition for him right now. All I have him saying is, "I just couldn't hate Megs and Paw Paw. I just couldn't hate them." And so you would go on from there to doing the actual line from the movie.
Oh, these Southern dandies, they are something else. I tell you, he's a character. I
What do you
watched
think
the
of the
HBO
jacket?
documentary, but now is the Netflix one very different? I'm guessing it's the same thing. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that four-part series. The thing is, how do you do that so early in the going before you know what the ending is?
Right.
It's the same as a Spielberg movie. We're 30 minutes into The Fablemans, God bless Steven Spielberg. The boy just doesn't know how to end a movie,
Oh,
you know? It's like the end of any sentence in a Stephen A. Smith tirade. I watched one today on ESPN. I
I
couldn't
can't.
understand a thing the man was saying. I must be too white. I just know that at the end of each sentence, I know that a sentence has ended when he says, "My brother."
I just, I think he's insane. I just can't even. I mean, I get it once. I think it's funny once, but he does it. That's his shtick. He does it every time, and I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
During
crazy.
that show this morning, ESPN was running ads and online as well for today's El Clasico, which is obviously Barcelona versus Real Madrid. And they had Lewandowski's picture up there like he was going to play. And they didn't mention that he wasn't going to play. It was
Huh.
totally false advertising.
Wow. And for bettors like you, if you see a picture and have the sound turned down, you might have
You
lost some
figure that
money.
he's going to play.
Yeah.
Exactly. Totally false advertising.
Oh, and that's why that was one of the lines about today's show run is Bob's pissed at ESPN.
Also, have you ever seen a man on a broadcast crew for a women's basketball game on ESPN? It's always only women.
Hmm.
But you're talking about an NFL game, and they still have a show dedicated to the NFL, even though the NFL is out of season, with the exception of the combine and the draft to come. It's out
Yeah.
of season. The Super Bowl was weeks ago, right?
I know, but you know as well as I that NFL runs 24/7, 365 now. I mean, like from the combine to Aaron Rodgers going into a darkness cave to
Yep.
him deciding where he wants to play to Brady retiring. And then to the, draft. I mean, it's just and free agency is 24/7. It's starting and all sports are starting to do that now. It is what it is.
Yes, I've been arrested for a car wreck that killed two people, but I got to get back to the combine. I'll answer your questions later.
Although I did hear that there's like maybe 7 or 8 teams this year that aren't excited about the combine, aren't going to go. So, I mean, like maybe they're starting to downplay the importance of it.
Yeah. It's about time they didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Good day, this is a fake AI lady with an important announcement. Originating from rural Twin Cities and big city Los Angeles, gracing your podcast platform since 2023. The Bob and Kel Clevercast starring Kurt is a podcast with pictures and the picture of consistency. Each week, our hosts discuss Bob Yates's latest obsessions, such as cultural trends that Bob finds abhorrent, government positions that Bob opposes, sexual positions that Bob has copyrighted, books, movies and TV programs that Bob recommends, overrated celebrities who have made Bob physically ill. No, it's not all about Bob. Kel Gradke is the intelligent foil for Bob's runaway rantings and ravings, especially the ravings. Executive producer Kurt handles the tech and runs the show with an iron hand. The one he used to great effect in winning a UFC heavyweight championship. Last but not least, consumers of the Jewish persuasion can rest assured that each edition in the series is hella kosher. Blessed behind the scenes by a rabbi to be named later. So what the fuck are you waiting for? Get strapped in, buckled up and logged on for the next clever cast. Tell Bob, Kel and Kurt sent ya. Please look for Bob and Kel Clevercast on Patreon and make a donation to help keep the lights on around here. Thanks for your patronage.
And the NFL part of ESPN's coverage also is on my nerves because I don't know how do you feel about this? Aren't you a little creeped out when a tiny little woman who's never played a down of NFL football knows the names of all the defensive formations, knows
Mhm.
all the offensive plays by the weird code that NFL teams use? Little bitty woman.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. Maybe it means, I hope it doesn't mean I'm a misogynist. Maybe I should think of her as one of the tiny women professors I had in college, talking about the four reasons for the War of 1812, even though they'd never seen combat. I need to think of her in that way so I'm not so offended.
I guess I hate to be misogynistic as well because I listen to or watch hockey on ESPN and they'll have I mean Hextall. Her last name's Hextall. She's from the Hextall family. Tons of players have come through and she's like the sister cousin of them. And
The
she's
hockey
just grading.
Hextall?
Yeah, she's grading. She's just not
Yeah,
good at it. I mean, I'm not trying to be sexist in any way. It's just like
yeah.
she can, I mean, there's some good female broadcasters, but I think she's terrible, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Another specific woman broadcaster on the NFL side for ESPN is a woman named Diana Rossini. And if you go to Diana Rossini's first Google page, it looks like you're investigating her background as a stripper because the pictures are actually kind of inappropriate. But apparently she's found God because in every on-camera appearance, she wears this giant cross right there in the hollow of her neck and the clavicle. And when she talks, it booms out like that, or it moves this way and that. And I just don't like to be reminded of a medieval torture murder that is, one of the over-the-top foundations of my faith when I watch a conversation about the NFL.
But what if it were to like drift into her heavy cleavage? Would you have a problem with that?
There is an NBA analyst, not to be confused with,
Yes, yes.
analyst, who wears it, who wears the cross further down on the sternum there, but it's still the cross, and I'm creeped out by the cross, and that's a bad place for a Presbyterian to be. In my Christianity, I mean, if you want to blame something on the Romans or the Jews about Jesus's death, which, by the way, he knew was coming, that was the deal all along, right? In my Christianity, he was misdiagnosed and he slipped into a diabetic coma like Jerry Garcia. And then he arose, and you've got an Easter without all the Mel Gibson, like, flaying
Oh, here come the calls.
and punching. You're telling me that's an unreasonable thing to suggest?
I'm just saying, some people are, funny about things like that.
You know what? If I see Mel Gibson in Whole Foods again, it will be the third time, and the third time's a charm. I'm going to say something.
Okay, good.
And then I'll probably pick myself up off the floor. But as
So-
you know, he is responsible for the Passion of the Christ movie.
So far, you've seen him, but haven't said anything. But I'm assuming
That's
you made an obscene gesture.
I did not make an obscene gesture, no.
Okay, all right.
But that's right. I could at least do something like, hey, Mel. Hey, Mel, what's going on? That kind of thing. It's just unbearable, that motion picture. I can only watch it up to the point where the whip comes down the first time. Why can't we just let him slip into a diabetic coma and then wake up on the other side? Like that kids version of Christianity. I forget what the name of the something and the something, the Chronicle of the something or other. I forget
Oh,
what it's called.
Narnia?
Yes, exactly. Where the lion is asleep
Okay.
and then the lion wakes up and it's like
okay.
Easter.
Use analogy. I got it. All right.
Yes.
Go for it, man. Maybe you're the man to write that.
I saw him at the Express Lane and a Ralph's in Malibu. I saw him in at the Whole Foods. And where I'd like to see him is in the church. He has his own little cathedral
Yeah.
in Malibu that he oversees. And I guess that means that he takes confession. How'd you like to be confessing to your sins on a weekly basis to Mel Gibson? His
Seriously, I
own
didn't know
church.
that.
He owns his own church. After the podcast, Google Mel Gibson Church, and you'll find out about, the membership is probably like 11 people, and half of that is probably 5 of his 19 kids.
Yeah. Like Trump, he strikes me as someone who's never set foot in a church, but you're saying he runs one. So
Forgive me, Road Warrior, for I have sinned. And then at the end, he says, say so many Hail Marys and, get the fuck out of here. That's probably what Mel Gibson would say.
Does Danny Glover play a role as his sidekick?
I don't.
Lethal Weapon? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Mel did
No,
a
but
great...
that's an idea. That's an idea for a movie. Stranger things have happened.
So, a buddy cop movie, but this time a buddy priest movie.
I
Hey,
was hoping one of those would break out during the Fablemans last night. I can understand why Spielberg would want to do a legacy movie to make sure that we remember his formation as a filmmaker and his contributions to the industry. But man, something's got to happen soon, or I'm going to have to duck out of it. And I paid $6 for it.
$6. Wow, you got a deal.
$6 for a 2.5 hour movie, you would think is not bad, but something has to happen.
Have you heard about
And
those movie passes where you can buy a pass for the whole month and go see as many movies as you want? Have you ever done that?
is that still in business? I thought it went out of business.
It went out of business and it's coming back. And I don't know if it's back already, but I know they've talked about it, and I think it actually might be. So I don't
I think
know.
the guy who founded the original Movie Pass is headed to jail or to trial or something like that. Trial and then jail. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Movie Pass was, we thought, an idea whose time had come, but apparently it has not come yet.
And then I wonder if COVID kind of killed that. Who knows?
Oh, that reminds me. I portrayed a misogynist at a party, a downer kind of party. Nothing was happening at the party last weekend, and so I thought I'll spice this up. I'll start saying a bunch of misogynist things, and it was the typical LA woke crowd.
Yeah.
And I went over and I said, you know what? The only two things I want to hear from a woman are dinner's ready and I'm coming.
Oh, jeez.
And of course, I was asked to leave.
Were
And
there
that's
any
fine.
fainting? Were there any fainting women? Were there any, gasps and
Something had to be done, so I called on my acting skills to try to liven things up.
Yeah.
And I was asked to leave.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, they said, I think this is code for we're asking you to leave. We're calling security. What do you think of this jacket, this blue jeans jacket?
Yeah, it looks like you might be a little chilly today with the jacket
And
on.
my
Oh.
it's a big ball night. Arizona State's in town.
All right. Well,
When I wear this jacket in public with my hair down, with my
Yeah.
flaming,
yeah.
leonine white locks,
Yes.
people actually come up to me and say, "You were in the Eagles." And I said, "Well, I'm flattered that you remembered. Yes, I took over for Randy Meisner in '97 after that spat with Joe Walsh, and then continued for 20 years and made way for Glenn Fry's son. But the infighting was just too much. The money was good. It worked out to about $1 million a month, give or take a couple of 100,000 with the live crowds and the royalties and whatnot. But I don't know. It's just too much for my nerves to take. But thank you for noticing.
Can I sign your breast, ma'am? Something
You
like
were,
that.
you were in the Eagles.
I love it.
That's pretty cool.
Hey, you take what you can get.
I thought that when we came to the Palisades, we would be mercifully, blessedly free of celebrities. It's a nice, quiet resort living for elderly people type of place. And the guy who showed it to us the first time, stop me if I've told you the story already. He points out into this canyon and he goes, "Yeah, I think Bill Murray lives over there." Oh, no. Of all the celebrities, too, one who's fallen out of favor.
Well,
You noticed you didn't see any, or at least I didn't see any footage of Bill Murray playing golf at Pebble Beach a
yeah.
couple of weekends ago. Usually they get a shot of him, doing gags and stuff and
Is
just
he
joking
officially
around for the crowd.
Is he officially
Huh?
canceled, or was it kind of a
I don't think he's
drive-by
canceled
cancel?
yet, but I think he's probably canceled in the Aziz Ansari household because that movie is not going forward because of the complaint
Oh yeah.
against Bill Murray.
Well, Assis has his own problems, so yeah, interesting.
Do you plan on seeing any movies while you're on vacation in the Caribbean? The reason I ask is because we were in. I was married at the time. We were in Aruba. No, we were in the Caymans, and saw for the first time to show you how long ago this was. Four Weddings and a Funeral,
Oh,
which was one of the maybe top 5 rom-coms in history, if you ask me.
and then just a few years later, you guys got a divorce. That's fascinating.
4 Weddings, a Funeral, and a Divorce. That was the sequel.
I don't see myself watching any movies while we're out, but
Yeah.
maybe they'll have a movie theater on site. Who knows?
That's the kind of thing you can do at home, and also you can watch a movie on your laptop in the event of bad weather if your hotel or Airbnb or whatever, Vrbo, whatever it's called, has Wi-Fi.
Right. The thing is, we checked in with Verizon to make sure that phones would work while we were down there, and we found it's rather expensive to get a little bit of coverage. So I am going to try to go tech free, going without. I'm going to try to stay away from my phone during the whole vacation. Can I do it? I don't know.
This is where my friend James Carville would say, "Are you out of your cotton picking mind?"
I'm going to read my book and sit by the water. That's what I'm going to do.
James
Toast.
Carville here, the Raging Cajun for James Carville's Carville in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas. If you've ever stood at the bottom of one of them Carvana towers, the humongous vending machines, and watched the car you're about to buy slide down this conveyor like it's a can of Diet Mountain Dew, I have a question for you. Are you out of your cotton picking mind? At James Carville's Carville VW Kia dealership, you can see and drive that car, truck, or SUV before you buy it. You can kick the tires. You can kick my salesperson. You can impregnate one of my secretaries while you're there. I don't care. Just so you come in and buy one of these cars, sale priced from our inventory. Here are a couple of examples. We have the Mercedes. I'm sorry, I meant to pronounce it Mercedes. All right, we have the Mercedes that looks like a Ford Focus. We have the Mercedes that looks like a Jeep inside a cardboard box. We have all the unnecessary Porsche SUVs. And if you get down here today, we'll show you the ugliest vehicle on God's green earth in automotive history. It's called the Tesla. We even have the brown Tesla that looks like an electronic toy shot from a giant robot. But you got to get down here to James Carville's Carville in downtown Little Rock. Take the Dexter exit off the Highway 630, and you're there. James Carville's Carville, where we say, it's the economy, stupid. James Carville appears courtesy of William Morris Endeavor Agency, Los Angeles, and has been allowed out of the house by Ms. Mary Matlin, Washington, D.C.
Are they still together, long and strong?
That's what I had to investigate online. Sure enough,
Wow.
they still are. They were really the forerunners for the Conways.
Yeah,
For,
that's true.
Kellyanne and George. That's the couple that I'm really amazed they're still together.
Yeah.
You know, that really got chippy there for a while, especially around January 6th of 2021.
Yeah, didn't they split? Or maybe they just tussled and then they're back together, I guess, huh?
I noticed that George has lost a little weight and darkened his hair, and it's gotten a little longer. And usually when that happens, that means that the man is on the prowl. She hasn't changed appreciably physically, and unfortunately has not changed mentally either, because it's CPAC week. Even Matt Schlapp has shown his face outside his house at CPAC, despite the groping allegations. But as far as I know, they're still together. I've not seen an official announcement about a separation or divorce. God bless them if they can make this work. But, I couldn't do it.
You're pulling for the kids.
I could not marry a Trumper.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the line.
You were doing such a good job on the Carville impersonation. Did you have a Southern twang when you were youngin'? And
let's see, I left for Minnesota in '83, and I called my mother every Sunday afternoon for 30 years. And for 10 or 15 minutes after every conversation on the phone with her in Texas, I sounded like fucking Jed Clampett. Ding dong. Just like Jed Clampett. Ellie Mae, what's going on out of the cement pond? Oh, yeah. That's the only time, though. When I wasn't talking to my mother, I would sound like a normal person.
Okay.
Every Sunday at 3:00 in the West, I get a little jolt, like I should be talking to her. The strangest thing. Are your parents still alive?
My father passed, but my mom is still alive. Yes.
Okay. Are you reminded of them for a certain time of day or day of the week or event? Because I really
Sometimes.
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad went in 2019 and mother followed a year later. One of those couples where we just can't do without each other. And if he's not around, I'm giving it up. And she did. So it was such a habit every Sunday at 3, either from Minnesota or from California. And when that went, and she wasn't understanding me or knowing who I was on the phone, It was like, lopping off an arm.
I
Really
know.
strange.
So sad. I don't know. I talk a long time about that too, but
And we prepared for it. I'm really the only one among myself and my siblings, I think, who was prepared for this.
mhm.
These are former, fellow children of mine as we were growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, and every Sunday it was a celebration of, oh, we're going to meet Jesus. Oh, come on, Jesus, meet me. And behind the scenes, nobody wanted to meet Jesus. They're ripping the pages out of Prevention magazine and swallowing aspirin a dozen at a time, thinking that was the fountain of youth. They didn't want to meet him at all. It's great songs, rejoicing, about salvation stuff. They didn't, turns out it was just a false alarm. This is why I say a diabetic coma. That's as sad as it gets. Jerry Garcia left us diabetic coma,
Right.
and then a burial at sea, and then let's say there's a burial at sea.
It comes
Up the sea he arose.
Just like Bin
Yeah.
Laden.
Huh?
Just like Bin Laden.
Exactly, just like Bin Laden. Wound up chum for the Sharks.
Yeah.
What'd you
Right.
eat last night? I think I ate some Osama bin Laden. I'm still feeling it too. I'm loose and I can't get my mojo back, my bowel mojo.
That's a shark. That was your impression of a shark right there.
Shark talking to another shark, both dying of indigestion. I don't know why. I've gotten to the point where I think, of course, I'm sure I'm mistaken. I think I can impersonate anybody.
All right, you're pretty good. You've got a talent, a
If
knack.
you'll try James Carville, you'll try anybody, as far as I'm concerned. Because these millennials and the Gen Z who
Yeah.
tune into this,
Mhm.
hopefully paying the two of you to tune into this, they
Yes.
don't know who the hell James Carville is.
No.
I went into a restaurant the other night. I like to go to restaurants that have big, spontaneous neighborhood walk-ups where I know I won't get in. So I go up to the maitre d' and I say, Donner, party of 5. Well, he's not going to get a Donner party joke. He doesn't know anything about history, cannibalism, or anything. And so I come back in 10 minutes. Might make that 4, Donner party of 4. And so every 10 minutes we lose a Donner because it's a Donner party, right? It's cannibals.
You're laughing. This is
But
a
they
great-
don't get it.
They don't get it.
Sense of humor is lost on the millennials and the Gen Z. Don't you
And
know
that's
that
your-
they're going into ballparks today? ESPN is now showing exhibition baseball. And the rules have been changed for them so they won't be bored. They get back to their devices in a couple of hours.
Right.
And I could just see them settling into their seats in the stadium and going, I'll be so damn glad when this is over. When is this game going to be over? So I can get back to my little tablet or my little phone.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
mean,
it's all about to me.
the biggest sports heroes for Gen Z and millennials are the Paul brothers, Jake and Logan, who have had a nice little mini career so far. They're pretty impressive what they're doing.
I saw the highlights of Jake's bout the other night, and bully for him to try to take on an actual bully, an actual professional fighter. It didn't work out well, but a lot of people seem to think he won the fight. He knocked the guy down.
Right.
He got some good licks in.
Yeah, and this Logan, he's a hell of a WWE performer. I mean, it is fake wrestling, but mind you, he's got a knack for it. So, go ahead, go influencers, man.
He got more good licks in than Brad Newman on a good day.
Good old Brad. I
Sure.
still haven't looked Brad up yet. I am
I couldn't
kind of curious.
resist.
What is his? Does he
No,
have
I don't
great-
think I don't think you want to look him up because if you do, I'm afraid that your laptop will get cooties. You know how a laptop attracts online cooties from malware and stuff attached to porn stars? I don't want to see that happen to you. So don't look for him.
Does
Just
he have a
depend on my eyewitness accounts.
Okay. Does he have a claim to fame? Is it length, girth? What is it? What is this?
I don't think necessarily, although the camera can play tricks, I don't think it's necessarily length as girth. But the main thing is, as I stated before, he's a romantic.
Oh,
He's respectful, and he stops when you say stop. He goes when you say go.
it's something
he's
we all
just
should
as-
aspire to.
Well, of course, it's courtesy. He's the first woke porn star. He's kind, he's courteous, he's he's all the things you would want in a lover. The only thing is, you turn the page, so to speak, online, and he's doing two other women. So he's not exactly the most faithful man around.
We know how this is going to end.
Do you remember Taco Tuesday in Mendota Heights
Of
back in the
course.
day?
Of
So
course.
we would go to Taco Tuesday at some place in Mendota Heights, and there were lap dances involved. And I would become emotionally attached to the person giving me the lap dance and enjoy my taco. Who says men can't multitask? And 10 minutes later, I look across the room and she's on the lap of another taco eater. And it just, I don't know. I'm still bearing the psychic scars of Taco Tuesday in Mendota Heights.
It cut you to the quick. Oh, poor Bob.
Another bone I had to pick today is the number of sports I'm seeing played in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi.
I made a
There was
list.
a women's golf tournament in some place called King Abdullah City of Economy. Don't these athletes know? Don't they have enough money that whatever happened to, I'm not going to play Sun City. Don't they have enough money that they can just boycott these murderers? That's what the Saudis are. They're murderers. They trained and paid people who killed 3,000 innocents at the World Trade Center in 2001. They enslaved their own women. They dismembered Khashoggi, the journalist at the Washington Post. And I look at sports chat shows, and they go, they're trying to compare Live versus PGA as NBA versus ABA back in the day, the 60s and 70s. That's the whole wrong way to look at it. These are bad people. Phil Mickelson, his gambling debts must be pretty overwhelming that he should fall in with that crowd. Do you
I mean,
agree or not?
I did a Google search, and it like the stuff that pops up: Grand Prix, World Weightlifting, Equestrian, Golf, of course, Live, WWE, FIBA with the basketball, World Boxing. I mean, it's all. I mean, that's the go-to place now. They don't seem to care what the Saudi's
Yeah.
famous for. They're
Tennis, golf, you name it, it's being played in Saudi Arabia. And, it could be that their goal is just to buy everything, is just to own it all.
right.
And I wish I knew of some way to advise these leagues and tours to resist it, because these are bad people.
Money trumps all.
They
So,
skipped
Hey.
over. They skipped over FIFA's corruption and how the World Cup came to
Oh, yeah.
Abu Dhabi.
Qatar. See, I get them all mixed up. Qatar, Yemen, everything on that side of the Red Sea, I get mixed up. I just consider it all Saudi Arabia.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. Dubai,
Mhm.
and wherever Mohammed bin Salman is hanging his headgear. The thing about the jacket, this jacket, which I was wearing the last time I saw you downtown St. Paul at the Buttered Tin,
Yes.
a certain someone was in line who looked a lot like me. Would you like to share that anecdote with Kurt?
I think I might have already, but it was fascinating to me. Bob and I were gonna meet for a quick breakfast, and we went in, and I was there first, and I got in line, and I was sitting there, and I saw this bearded man, gray white bearded man with some lengthy hair and back, stagger in and start making his way to the line that I was in, and I reached out my hand and I said, "Hey," and he said, "Hey." And I almost reached to shake his hand, and he said, and I think that's not Bob. That's a lesser.
So when I did come in, Kel says, "Look at this guy over here. He looks just like you." Damned if he didn't. I mean, we could have paused for a before and after.
It was like Bob letting himself go a bit, or homeless Bob, but nevertheless, I could have thought maybe he has. Maybe
Letting himself go more than he has.
yes.
That was pretty strange to see your doppelganger in the same room. I don't know whether you've ever seen anyone who looks like you in an establishment of any kind, but it is kind of frightening.
At least I didn't get to the hugging part where I was about to grab him and say, "Get in here, big guy." But
Most
luckily,
guys I know well enough, they have free range of my body. They can touch me anywhere they like. I'm glad you didn't do that. Another bone to pick. You ready for it?
ready.
Shoot.
Donald Trump in East Palestine, Ohio. shows up, not with any solution to the toxic spill, the train derailment, right? He
Right.
shows up just like he did. Was it Puerto Rico? Was that where the hurricane was? Where he shows up with a bunch of hats, a bunch of MAGA hats,
Mm,
and some, get this, paper towels that
yeah.
he throws to the little people. Here, mop up your home with these paper towels. And it was just that condescending. And it just took me back to that time, which I'm still amazed that we survived.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that James Carville? Isn't that the thing that they would suggest? You go find a catastrophe, you show up, you attack your candidate, the other
Yeah,
guy, particularly Biden, and then,
yeah.
that's how it
And then if
works.
you're questioned on it, you just think you're shutting down debate completely by saying, "Are you out of your cotton picking mind?"
I don't know. This whole battle of geriatric candidates is really bugging me. How come we keep these 80-year-old men and can't find somebody who's 30?
The last guy I met who was that old was, well, I'll ask you, when was the last time you tried to make sense to a person in his 80s or her 80s who wasn't related to you?
Oh man. I mean, it was probably an uncle, probably, somebody who didn't hear very well
Yeah.
and got things mixed up
So
and
you have to raise your voice. You have to get over to the good ear. You have to
yeah,
say things slowly and distinctly.
it's
I'm
not
reminded of
confidence
the
building.
time in the 90s. I went to New York, Upper East Side of Manhattan, to ask Zach and Betty Lonstein for their daughter Shoshana's hand in marriage. She'd just broken up with Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I got a lot of this. "Oh, so what are you going to do with this dedication to your personal Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" Zach was very direct,
Okay.
elderly, Jewish, and he just cut right to the chase, man. And I thought and I thought and I said, because I really loved her, Shoshana
Oh, I
Lonstein, she
remember
just,
that you had a thing for her that would go on forever.
and so he asked me, what do you, the carpenter's kid, Jesus Christ, what are you going to do with him? Uh, and I thought, and Betty was looking at me. Shoshana was nowhere around. She had no idea, even to this day, that I existed. And I said, who? Ah, piece of cake. I'm ready to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. Little does she know. She was 17 when she was going
Oh,
out with Seinfeld. 17.
Oops.
that's mighty young.
I told you that I met the woman who worked, I assume is retired now, who worked in Minnesota state government, who had been with Bob Dylan. And so, can you imagine how, at the age of 18, how attractive she must have been to catch his eye from the front row of a jammed concert stadium in Detroit? Every day, I make a point of not thinking of how attractive she must have been at the age of 18,
I think about
because
that a lot. Oh,
we're all hot at that age.
oh
Admit it.
yeah.
We're
More
all
than
hot.
others. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I always think about musicians who like write the songs. She was just 17 or Sweet 16. That's borderline pedophilia. It's
Covered by
like, what
Ringo
have they,
Starr.
how did they, that was the thing. What was that?
Covered by Ringo Starr.
Yes,
16
exactly.
in your mind.
At two funerals, both eulogies delivered by the same pastor. I'm referring to my parents' funerals now. One in a funeral home, one in an idyllic, like graveside setting because of COVID. We were wearing our masks outdoors to show you how little we knew about the pandemic at that time. I had to sit there at both funerals and hear a pastor tell a crowd about what my father had said at the age of 16 about a certain 13-year-old he had his eye on.
Wow.
So, yeah, right. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh my God, my father was Jerry Lee Lewis. Oh, I'll never live this down. Oh, crap. Dennis Quaid was portraying my father in Great Balls of Fire. This is really embarrassing. Nobody else seemed to think anything of it. But
Yeah.
the same guy told both stories of borderline child rape at these funerals. And
At
I'm
the
just sitting
funeral.
there mortified.
Did he hear the story, or is he actually the pastor that they've had their entire lives?
No, I would say he was their pastor for probably the last 20, 25 years of their lives. And the reason that my father's couldn't take place at his church was because the church was undergoing some sort of remodeling. So they had it at a funeral chapel. And I mean a jammed funeral chapel. And I'm
Mm.
hearing this story about, man, Gwen, I know she's just 13, but I can marry that girl. And I, and he's telling this out of the words of my father's mouth, and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh my God, I'm in hillbilly heaven here. What is happening?" How would you feel? Wouldn't you be mortified?
I don't think that would have set well. But usually a lot of times the pastors are asking questions like, what kind of stories can we tell? They don't know them as well as we'd like them to. This guy
Right.
did his homework.
Yeah.
So you got to respect that. But yeah,
I don't know who passed that anecdote on to him, but I'm guessing it was some sort of Texas pedophile, is all I can figure. Because that's just, I realized it was a different time and there were different social manners and mores at work and whatnot, but 13, Dad, come on, you know? And I'm telling this like 70 years of knowing him
Yeah.
and remarking on something that happened, like in 1950, and
Yeah.
I'm scolding him for not dating somewhere near his station in life, as opposed to someone, who hasn't menstruated yet. See what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Got to do a commercial break here. I'll be right back with you.
All right. All right.
Do you live in Greater Maricopa County, Arizona? Did you cast one or more votes in last year's state election? Most importantly, are you due for your annual comprehensive cleanse? If so, we welcome you to the U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema Enema Cinema, where vintage films from shorts to Showa will distract you from the wide variety of discomforts associated with invasive colonoscopy. It's a big screen French New Wave to go with our vigorous prostate wave. We have your Breathless, your Weekend, your Contempt, and other Godard classics queued up and ready to roll. Just what the doctors ordered. Speaking of whom, our numbing agents, so to speak, have advanced medical degrees from Kel's favorite country, the Dominican Republic, and are only too anxious to show them off. Best of all, Enema Cinema Enemas offer a 90-day no pain, no gain, no leak guarantee. You'll never know we're tunneling through your entrails like escaped inmates or your money back. Seriously, how good is it going to feel to tell that annoying little Cologuard box guy SOB to kiss your ass? Take the Avondale Boulevard exit off the 10, then a right at the Flavors of India restaurant, and you're there. Enema Cinema is not liable for any injury or illness related to the smell of Indian food. Tell them Senator Cinema sent you.
Oh, so many things. The idea of the box kissing your ass is wonderful.
You can't say you weren't warned about the enema reference.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mentioned that earlier in the show, and I was like, I had no idea you were doing that. That's why you and I are in this brainwave of some sort.
Wavelength. Oh yeah, wavelength. Let's sing it. Van Morrison's Wavelength all together now. My parents would routinely, during my peaked health-wise youth, I was always in the hospital. I missed the entire second grade because I was in the hospital. And you know where they would take me? St. Joseph's Hospital, so a bunch of nuns could give me enemas. They thought enemas were the cure for everything. And I'm sitting there, I'm like 6 years old, and this nozzle is going up my bum. And they're flooding me out, and I'm just going, take it out, take it out, take it out. And I'm thinking, what's next? Leeches? You can put leeches on me. Really, man, I was brought up in the dark ages. I'm really amazed that I survived and am able to speak in the English language to you on the Bob and Kel Clevercast, which now ends its broadcast day.